All right, guys. Let's see. Let me make this big so we can see what's happening. All right, so I know we're in Unit 10, and the number says 11.8 because in olden times, this was a Unit 11, and we did not have to teach this for the last couple of years, and now the state of Virginia says you do need this lesson. So I'm not changing the number, so we're still in Unit 10. This is one of the last lessons to teach you. So let's see what's happening here. All right, now that we have learned how to use the formulas, all of these formulas, we have surface area for both the rectangular prism and the cylinder, and we have the volume for both the rectangular prism and the cylinder. So now we have all of those formulas, which are four. You do not need to memorize. They'll be given to you. We know how to plug our numbers in, and we should be very secure in being able to find the surface area and the volume for both of those shapes. Now they're going to put a little twist on us, and they want us to change attributes and see what happens. Well, you might be saying, what's an attribute? All right, the attributes, let's fill in our notes. The attributes would be the height. All right, let's get that word in here. And maybe the width, or the length, or if we're talking about a cylinder, it could be the radius. All right, so it's those things that we plug in. It's these letters: length, width, height, radius, height. So if we change any of those, we're talking about changing attributes. All right, now you're talking about how do we change them? Well, what if we use a scale factor, which is a word that we have already had before? A scale factor always multiplies. All right, it multiplies attributes. All right, so here's an example. If we apply a scale factor of 2, now remember we did this with our dilations, the length of 7 inches will now become, remember we're always going to multiply, so what we're actually doing is we're saying 2 times the original length, and now we would have a length of 14 inches. All right, let's look at example 2. We have a scale factor of 1/3. All right, so that means that we're actually multiplying 1/3 times 9, or basically you're saying, what is 9 divided into 3 pieces? You would have a new length of 3 inches. All right, so that's basically what we're doing. They're going to ask you questions about what would happen if you changed an attribute. So let's take a look at the two things that we know how to do. We know how to find the volume, and we know how to find the surface area. Now, if they ask you to change an attribute with volume, all right, it starts with a V. V, it is very easy. So we like those types of questions because V, volume, is very easy. All we have to do is apply the scale factor to the original volume. We don't have to start all over. Look at this example. The original volume, all right, originally came out to be 112 inches cubed because it's volume, and it had a height of 12 inches. All right, so they told us some cylinder had a height of 12 inches. They don't tell us what the radius is, but they already gave us the answers, 112. Now they want us to find the new height in volume if the height has a scale factor of 3 applied to it. So the new height is now going to be 12 times 3. All right, everybody, we're just multiplying 12 times 3. So now we have 36 inches on our new shape and the new volume. Now, we don't have to start all over again. If the original volume was 112, we're just going to times that by 3. And all we have to do is use our calculator at this point, 336 inches cubed. All right, so if they ask you for volume, you can just apply the scale factor to the actual volume. You don't have to plug it in and start all over. All right, so volume, very easy. Just apply the scale factor to the volume that you already found. Okay, look what happened. The original volume tripled because we had a scale factor of 3. Now, let's move over to surface area. Surface area, SA. Well, unfortunately, we have to start S again. A. Oops, let me spell it right. Oh, let me try it one more time. All right, we got to start again. Not as easy. Surface area, start again. S-A, S-A. All right, so let's take a look. The original surface area is 150.72 inches with a height of 10 inches and a radius of 2. All right, so they've already got the answer. We have a height of 10, we have a radius of 2. They've already plugged it into the formula for us, and we got the original 150.72. Okay? All right, now remember this is surface area. That's why we have that little 2 squared. Find the new height in surface area if the height has a scale factor of 1/2 applied, 1/2. All right, so we're going to take the height, which they told us was 10, and we times it by 1/2. Same thing as divide by 2. So our new height is 5 inches. All right, so now we have a smaller shape. And if we go ahead and plug it in right here, notice that I went ahead and I plugged in, here's my height, my new height right here, so I've already done the work for us. I still have that radius of 2, there's my radius right there. That 4 is from the radius squared. All right, so now here is my new, so we couldn't just cut it in half, the volume, because 150.72, half of that is not 87.92. So we had to work the whole thing over again. So we had to plug in our new height right here, okay, right here. And now we have 87.92 inches squared. If you're doing volume, it is very easy. Apply the scale factor to the original volume that you found. If they're asking you to do a scale factor on surface area, unfortunately, you have to start all over again and plug in your new height into the formula, use the formula all over again. Now notice, because we were having a shorter height, we cut the original height 10 inches in half, we're going to have a smaller volume, but it is not half. All right, so that's the main thing to know. We had to start again. If you have volume, it's very easy. You can just cut it in half if it's a scale factor of 1/2. You can times it by 3 if the factor is 3. So it's very easy. Surface area, unfortunately, you have to start all over. All right, let's take a look at your independent practice. All right, on the first page, they're just asking you to apply some scale factors. So we have a scale factor of 4. So they give you the original height, width, and length. So you're just going to multiply and get a new width. All right, my width was, let's see, make sure we're using it. The width was 3. So when we times that by 4, we're going to have a 12, all right, in inches. Our height was 12. We're going to times it by 4, write the answer here. Our length, 6.5. Times it by 4, put your new length here. Don't forget to put inches with it. Okay? All right, then when you get over to the back, you're going to actually have to find the surface area of the original shape. They gave us a shape right here. You're going to find the volume of that rectangular prism, write it here. You've got room right here to show your work. Then they want us to find the volume if the height has been applied with a scale factor of 1/2. You don't have to start all over again. Remember, for volume, it's very easy. You go back up here to your volume and you cut it in half, divide it by 2, and you have your answer. Unfortunately, when you get down here to number 14 and 15, they're asking you for the surface area, which means you're going to have to start again. You're going to have to apply 1/3 to the height. All right, so you cut 9 into divided by 3. You're going to have to work it all out again in order to get your new answer. So you're going to have to start again. All right, good luck with your practice, guys.